For growing up, growing ag, that again was born out of just getting involved in the Miss America organization and wanting to show people, okay, here's where your food comes from. Here's why we should support local farmers and local farmers markets. Here's some ways that you can be supportive of the industry if you choose not to go to a farmer's market or don't have the ability to do so. And it's just getting the stories and the messages of our farmers out there. There are less than 2% of America's population is responsible for providing, food for the 100%. So let's, get their message out there and be able to support them as best as we can.
Positively West Virginia is powered by Breezeline high-speed fiber internet and sponsored by Highmark West Virginia, Freedom Key of Morgantown, Interaction Media, and Storymaker. With the help of these sponsors, we are able to share the positive business stories of West Virginians, including the one featured in today's episode.
Folks, welcome to Positively West Virginia. Today we're visiting with Elizabeth Lynch. Elizabeth is Miss West Virginia 2022. Her term was just up in the summer of last year, and a champion and an advocate for agriculture and farmers here in West Virginia. Elizabeth, thanks for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come on and share my story and talk about the people that I love.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's great to have you here in the studio, and I look forward to discussing that story.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, tell us a little bit about your background and what you're doing right now.
Sure. So I started riding horses when I was very young, 5 years old, but my family actually doesn't own a farm. So I kind of consider myself a first-generation agriculturist. And when I looked at my parents and I said, I think I want to start raising pigs too, they looked at me like I was an absolute nut job. And my mom said, sure, let's do it. My dad said, absolutely not. And like any great parents, they compromised and we got pigs. And so I was very heavily involved in 4-H, and then I got involved in FFA. And I think that's really where my decision to pursue a career in agriculture began. So I went from my high school in Martinsburg, West Virginia, and went to Delaware State University, and I got my bachelor's degree in animal and poultry science with a minor in biology. I was also a Division I equestrian athlete while I was there, so that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
And then I went and got my master's at WVU, and that was in applied poultry nutrition and feed manufacture science. And right now I'm a PhD student, so I still have 2 more years left in my PhD program.
At WVU?
At WVU as well. Yeah.
All right.
So
That's
still
great.
studying chickens every day.
So what's your doctorate going to be in?
And that's in the same applied poultry nutrition and feed manufacture science as well. Yeah. So my PhD title specifically is animal food and nutritional science. But technically, I just work with chickens and corn and soybean every day. Yeah.
Lifting bags of feed, I'm
Lifting
sure.
bag of feed.
That's great.
Yep.
That's great. So I got to ask you, obviously you're an equestrian, 5 years old, you start riding horses, you want pigs. But how did you parlay that into where you're at now, getting a PhD in this particular field?
Right. So like I said, I'm a first generation agriculturist. And a lot of times if you choose an ag pathway, then you're going to be working on your family farm, or you have some sort of generational farm to be passed down to you.
Sure.
And I don't have that. So I took my love for agriculture, my love for animals, and my love for science, and I chose in high school to pursue a research pathway so that I could still, work with agriculturists and work with animal science, which is kind of what I have found that I'm really good at. I found out through FFA that agriculture is so much more than cows, sows, and plows. And I know that sounds so silly, but a lot of people forget that there's so many different opportunities for you in the agricultural industry that don't necessitate you working on the farm should you choose not to, or should you be in a situation like me and not be able to do that.
Yeah, it's a very impressive and a very important mission that you're on. And I would also throw in there that it's important for women to be involved in agriculture too.
Absolutely. So 36% of U.S. farms are actually female-owned, and 56% of U.S. farms have some sort of female operator or female decision maker as well. So we're getting that number up, and I'm very proud to be representing female agriculturists.
Yeah, I got to ask you, you said you were a Division I equestrian.
Yes.
What was your discipline? What were you competing in?
I did horsemanship, so that was Western. I
Nice.
grew up riding both English and Western, but they chose me to do horsemanship when I was in college.
How was that experience?
It was crazy. It was definitely a wild ride. So I was not only a full-time student, but a full-time student athlete and an undergraduate research assistant. So I did research research with sheep and goats the whole time I was also on a sports team.
Wow.
So I was running all the time.
Yeah.
I think my college career didn't look like most people's college careers.
At the D1 level, are they called shows? What is it? An
Meets.
event? A meet.
Yep, a
Okay.
meet.
And did you get to travel and see parts of the country?
All
and stuff?
over the
Yeah.
place. I traveled quite frequently. So we were always on the road, and we had dual seasons, so a fall and a spring season.
my.
So it never ended.
It never ended.
No.
Yeah, you were always training or showing or competing.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool. My daughter, when she was young, she was a hunter jumper
Wow.
in the English style.
That's a
And
tough
just
route to take.
It's kind of dangerous too. So I'm glad she's not doing that anymore. Well, of course, she's a mom of two now, so that's also pretty cool. So one of the things that that intrigued me about you, Elizabeth, when we first met, was you're also a podcaster. I know it's kind of on hiatus right now, but you have a podcast called Farmer Friday. Tell us a little bit about that.
I do, and I try really hard. I've got my microphone that my dad gifted me from Best Buy and my cheap Amazon ring light, so I try my best, but
great.
it actually kind of came out of COVID. So part of the Miss America organization is your development of some sort of a platform or community service initiative. Mine was always based around agriculture or advocating for our agriculturists. And when COVID hit, I figured out that I wasn't going to be able to travel like I normally did or go and speak to people in person. So I thought, how am I going to be able to get these people's message out, get their stories out, and get them heard? And I thought about podcasting.
Yeah.
So I started Farmer Friday, where I interview agriculturists, ag organizations, and ag businesses, and kind of get that message of here's what's going on actively in our industry or with people who are or have boots right on the ground. And then here are the different career opportunities that you should be able to take should you pursue a career in the industry.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and you've done it for a number of episodes, and I didn't listen to them all, but you're very good at it, and I
Thank
think
you.
that's super cool too. So you mentioned the Miss America organization.
Yes.
Obviously serving as Miss West Virginia 2022. How long have you been in that system, and what does that look like?
I competed for about 5 years before I became Miss West Virginia, and I started out because of the opportunities for scholarships. Miss America is the largest provider of scholarships for young women in the nation, and a lot of people don't know that. So I was a full-on farm girl, and I figured out about the scholarship stuff, and I thought maybe I could try that out. So it was a weird transition into the pageant world, but I don't necessarily consider myself a pageant girl. I'm still that farm girl at heart.
Yeah.
So I just tried to emulate that and bring that onto the stage as much as possible. When I won Miss West Virginia, I was able to travel a little over 40,000 miles,
Oh my
32
goodness.
counties in West Virginia, and about
Amazing.
20 different states. So that was an incredible opportunity. And then I also wound up becoming third runner-up at Miss America
And
while I was
that's
there.
historic, because I think there's only a couple, maybe two or three.
One other person.
One other person that
Yeah.
has landed in the top five.
in for West Virginia, actually. So
Yeah.
she competed in 1964, and she was second runner-up. So there were two top 5 placements from West Virginia at Miss America. So I'm kind of proud to bring that
That's
back
really
home and
cool.
give West
Yeah,
Virginia
we're
something else
proud
to
of you.
celebrate.
Yeah.
Thank you.
For sure. When did that pageant, Miss America, when did you compete in that?
I competed December of 2022.
Okay, great. What was that like? And where was the competition?
Oh my gosh. So they held that one in Connecticut in December. So it was very cold, but that's totally fine.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
had a blast. We spent part of our time in New York City kind of traveling and getting some media content out there. But from that point, it was all competition based. However, just being able to say that I stood on the Miss America stage was enough for me. I just have little moments and little memories that I can remember because it was a hectic time, but I just never pictured myself there at all. So it's kind of still surreal to think about.
Yeah, I can
but
imagine.
my biggest goal was just to get the mission and the message of agriculture out there to America. And
Is
I
that
felt like I
common
did that.
in Miss America and pageants in general to have a platform of agriculture? Is that common?
Now, I don't know about other systems particularly, but in the Miss America organization, I was actually the first woman in the 101-year history of Miss America to promote agriculture on their national stage.
Amazing. That's so
it was
cool.
pretty cool.
You're breaking ground, no pun intended.
I really tried to. I actually
That's great.
brought jeans and muck boots for my talent, and I brought soil and plants on the Miss America stage. So my muck boots were the boots that I wore in the chicken pens and the hog pens all the
Oh, that's
time,
so
and
good.
they graced the Miss America stage, which is crazy to say.
Yeah, I love that. Elizabeth, I really appreciate your story so far. We're going to take a quick break and mention our sponsors for Positively West Virginia. We'll be right back.
Your prescriptions are designed to keep you healthy, active, full of life. At Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, we're making vital medicine more affordable. Because when your prescriptions don't cost an arm and a leg, you can use those limbs for something more meaningful. Because life. Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, West Virginia.
It's in the precision, the attention to detail, and the confidence that create a timeless look. Like Diamond Cuts Barbershop, Freedom Kia of Morgantown is not only committed to timeless design, but also fair pricing, excellent sales, and service with no hidden fees. You'll love the all-new 2024 Kia Sportage LX all-wheel drive leasing for just $265 per month, wherever it is you're going. Arrive with confidence and arrive in style. Visit Freedom Kia today, right off exit 153 on I-79 in Morgantown.
Folks, we're visiting today with Elizabeth Lynch. She's Miss America 2022, and she is a champion and an advocate for not only agriculture in West Virginia, but for farmers. She has a very deep passion for that, being a farm girl herself, not necessarily growing up on a farm, but living in the agricultural space all of her adult life, and actually since she's been 5 years old. Growing up, growing ag. Tell us a little bit about that.
Growing Up, Growing Ag was my community service initiative for Miss West Virginia and for Miss America. I'm actually not Miss America 2022. That goes to Emma Broyles.
Okay.
But I was Miss West Virginia.
What did I say, Miss America?
Yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
But
See,
hey,
it was on my brain.
Let me give Emma Broyles some credit. I love that woman. She's incredible. But for Growing Up, Growing Ag, that again was born out of just getting involved in the Miss America organization and wanting to show people, okay, here's where your food comes from. Here's why we should support local farmers and local farmers markets. Here's some ways that you can be supportive of the industry if you choose not to go to a farmer's market or don't have the ability to do so. And it's just getting the stories and the messages of our farmers out there. There are less than 2% of America's population is responsible for providing, food for the 100%. So let's, get their message out there and be able to support them as best as we can.
So important, and especially the local farmers. My wife and I have a farm share here in Morgantown.
Wow.
Where during the season, basically spring through fall, every week we pick up a bag of fresh produce, and it's grown literally less than 2 miles from our home.
I love that.
And it's kind of neat knowing, like, this is where we drive by the land, we pick up our produce at the farm.
Right.
And we're like, we can see it being grown. That's pretty cool.
And some people forget that our farmers are right down the road. So yes, it's convenient to go to Walmart or go to Giant Eagle or Kroger, but you have the ability to have something that's fresh, high quality, grown right in your area.
Absolutely. And we do the same thing for our beef and chicken and our eggs, actually.
I love that. Hey, I love fresh chicken. I'm a chicken girl. So
So tell us a little bit about, you're working in this animal food and feed development. How important is the food source then for, we're talking about our food source, but what about the food source for these animals?
Incredibly important. The smallest changes will change the production of that animal. And that's kind of what our research is based out of for the WVU pilot feed mill and with Dr. Joseph Moritz. So we look at different diet formulations or different ingredient supplementation within that diet and how it's going to change broiler production. Broilers are actually West Virginia's #1 agricultural commodity. We produce 2.3 million broilers a week here in West Virginia,
kidding.
which is crazy.
Where's most of that happen?
Usually Eastern Panhandle, and then Moorfield as well.
Okay.
So you have a lot of production in that area, but it's widespread.
Why is it that geographic area? Do you have any idea?
Probably because it's one of the more flatter areas of West Virginia, and it's easy to kind of have your poultry house there. But we do have poultry houses all over the state. What is it? Cash receipts for West Virginia in 2022 showed that 49% of cash receipts came from some sort of poultry production, whether that be broilers, any other meat birds like turkeys, and then eggs as well.
That's amazing.
So it's kind of widespread across our state, but we forget how impactful that is to our economy here in West Virginia.
Part of our economic gross domestic product.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Well, we talk about agriculture. I want to share this story with our listeners. I think I may have mentioned it to you. We got our start with Positively West Virginia back in the summer of 2017. Wow. We were at the state fair in Lewisburg. How many years did you go to the state fair representing and competing as as a contestant of
I'm not
pageant?
great with fast
That's
math,
okay,
but
yeah.
from the time that I was 9 until I was
Okay.
21, I showed my horse there every
Oh,
single
you showed your
year.
horse. Okay,
Yes.
that's amazing. Yeah, that's fantastic. So we were. It's just my wife and I were walking through the ag building there at the state fair and ran into Kent Leonhardt, our commissioner for agriculture in West Virginia, and he introduced us to many different small business owners there, but one in particular was Family Roots Farm over in Wellsburg in Brooke County. Brittany Hervey was her name. And I learned that she was they had kind of stumbled upon this idea that they had maple trees on their property, on their farm. And they started tapping those maple trees and started making maple syrup, learned about it, and then they started making maple sugar. And that's their largest product that they sell at the time anyway. I don't know if that's still going. I need to catch up with Brittany, but they were exporting it to China. That was their largest customer,
Wow.
the Chinese people buying West Virginia maple sugar. And I thought that was just incredible. And when we launched our first episode in this January of 2018, she was our first guest.
Wow.
And I was able to explain to her that was our mission, was explaining stories and telling stories of entrepreneurs, and especially people like her, farmers, agriculture folks, really making a difference in West Virginia. So if I could ask you, Elizabeth, like if I said, like, what's your 30-second pitch, like for what you do right now? What do you tell people?
Ooh. I think for me, my 30-second pitch would have to be revolving around the poultry industry here in West Virginia.
Great.
Teaching backyard farmers that they can produce their own product right in their homes, right in their own backyards. Poultry are easy to grow, and it's a great way to feed yourself and your community and your family, but also create some sort of a what's the word I'm looking for? A profit as well.
Yeah.
It's easy to sell here in West Virginia. It's easy to make that happen. But I'm big on advocating for the poultry industry, big on advocating for agriculture as a whole. And I hope to continue to do that, whether I'm in school or out of school. But that's something that I really want to focus on through the rest of my life, is advocating for this industry and advocating for the people that feed us.
Love it. What's the thing you're most excited about right now?
Ooh, I have a study coming up May 13th. I can't really talk too much about it. It's involved with other companies.
Yeah.
But I just ordered 1,000 birds, so that's coming in. I'm excited to get my first PhD study in the books and get that ready and rolling. I just had a paper published a couple months ago, so I hopefully will be able to kind of continue that trend and get things out there.
So where is the farm here at WVU?
Yeah, the WVU Research Farm is on Stewartstown Road.
Yeah.
We actually have an event coming up. It's called Kitty Days, and that's towards the end of April. If you follow the WVU Davis College Facebook or Instagram page, that'll be up there. So you can bring your children out there and see exactly what we have going on the farm, and how you can get involved in either research projects or understanding ag in your community, and how you can make that impact and make a difference.
Yeah, we'll make sure we have a link to that in the show notes for
that would be
for
perfect.
the podcast for sure. We'd like to help you get the word out about that. Elizabeth, this has been a great visit so far. We're going to take another quick break to recognize our sponsors for Positively West Virginia. We'll be right back.
My name's Caitlin Furby. I'm an interior designer with Remarkable Interiors. Our time is very limited. We're trying to do everything we can possible to keep our clients' projects moving and rolling. So StoryMaker has been really great for us for putting out how to explain our company. I can sit and agonize about a post. And is this right? Does this sound good? When I use StoryMaker, it sounds so beautiful, and it was so easy, and it saves me a lot of time to do the things that I'm really good at.
Stay connected with an unbeatable deal from Breezeline. Get reliable, fiber-powered 500 megabits internet for $39.99 per month with a $100 gift card and price lock guarantee, plus a free modem, free installation, and free Wi-Fi your way. Folks, here at Interaction Media, we're a media company, and we rely on high-speed internet every single day to get our jobs done. That's why we use Breezeline. It's affordable, it's fast, and they're awesome people as well. Learn more at breezeline.com. And we're back. We're visiting today with Elizabeth Lynch. Elizabeth is Miss West Virginia 2022 and a champion and an advocate for the agriculture industry and farmers in particular here in West Virginia, especially the poultry industry. Elizabeth, let's jump right back into it. What's kind of like the most interesting thing that you saw as Miss West Virginia when you're doing all these visits and all these different locations? What's the most interesting thing that you saw out there on the road?
To pick one thing, that's really hard. But with working with the people of West Virginia, I don't think I ever met somebody who was had a mean bone in their body.
Yeah.
Everybody that I came across was excited about what I was doing, excited about promoting the industry or supporting agriculture. They were just willing to listen to my message and be able to kind of take it in. And I met so many people who would just give you the shirt right off their back.
Yeah.
And I think that really exemplifies the people of West Virginia.
Yeah, I love that. We always talk about the benefits of being, doing business in West Virginia. A lot of people talk about the beauty of our state and the scenic, and I say, yeah, most states have that. They have beautiful rivers and lakes and mountains and plateaus, whatever. But I always say the people of West Virginia make the big difference.
The sun may not always shine in West Virginia, but the people sure do.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. It was John F. Kennedy, I
Yes.
believe, said that,
Yep.
right? All right, good deal. Well, let's talk a little bit about your future and what your ambitions are.
Right.
Obviously, you're going to be getting a PhD. That's very impressive. What's on the horizon?
Well, I'd like to stay in academia if possible. If I could become a professor at a land-grant university with a three-way split appointment in teaching, research, and extension, then I'll be able to continue my advocacy work through my students. And I think that would be something that's really beneficial. So not only will I be able to do research that's going to impact the industry, but I can kind of create that passion and that drive that I had when I was younger as well. And that kind of really secures the future of our agricultural industry. My favorite line, and something that I talk about all the time, is within the FFA Creed. I don't know if you know anything about that.
No, please share.
The first line is, I believe in the future of agriculture. And I think that line has really driven me to do what I'm doing right now, and that's securing that future. So whether that's through sustainable practices or through the people themselves, how am I going to make that happen? And I think for me, doing that through academia is the best way that I can make that.
I think so too. A lot of times, especially in modern America, modern West Virginia, we take it for granted, our food supply.
Right.
When the pandemic hit, there was a period of time there when that was in question, and supply chain and everything. We couldn't even buy, paper towels and so forth.
It's funny that you say something like that. In 2019, we had, I want to say it was 97 farmers markets here in the state. And then in 2022, we've got 267 farmers markets. And anyone you talk to that had some sort of a farmers market during COVID said that they had some sort of this large boom because people found that they had constant product at a farmer's market, whereas, you had low shelves in Walmart.
Yeah.
And then after COVID went away, people forgot that those farmers markets were still there. So if we can kind of continue that trend and remember, hey, these people will always have that fresh product, then maybe we can make that difference.
Especially in a day like, just recently I've been reading articles about manufactured meat where they're taking a cell from a pig and creating bacon from it. And it's like,
right.
I don't know if I want to eat that, and you've got all these sorts of 3D printed meat. I mean, who's eating it? I don't know. That's not on my
It's a scary
to-do
idea.
list.
Yeah.
So I think, when we're supporting these local farmers, local agricultural entrepreneurship, 'cause I always look at the farmers as the ultimate entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
I mean, you're taking a seed and planting it in the ground, and God's providing the sun and the rain, and they nurture and pull the weeds, but there it is. That's
Right.
that's a very pure food source. Especially when you're thinking about, I think, the animal production, and I don't know a lot about poultry farming, but you hear some negative things. But I know that you're advocating for responsible production.
Absolutely.
And the feeds that you're developing are very important to that quality of product.
Right. And a lot of people have this misconception about the poultry industry and what you're taking in.
That's
But
right,
we've got so many incredible regulations through the USDA and the West Virginia Department of Ag to ensure that our consumers are getting the best product possible from the people of West Virginia.
And we, as West Virginia as a state, we typically rank at the bottom of all the good lists and top of all the bad lists.
Right.
I hate to say that, but that is the case. And our diet is a large part of that.
Right.
When you think about obesity and heart disease and COPD, and a lot of it's just our habits, our diets.
Right.
So-
And that's why I fully support organizations like the pharmacy program. I don't know if you've heard about them.
No, tell me
so
about that.
it's FARM, and they are responsible for providing fresh, healthy options to people who have things like type 1 and type 2 diabetes in the state of West Virginia. Same thing with Farm to You, Farm to School, and then you've got Community Markets Inc. And all of those organizations are doing that exact same thing and making sure that we can get those options to food deserts here in the state of West Virginia or the people that need it the most.
I love it. I want to ask you, one of your episodes on your podcast, you interviewed I think her name was Kelsey from Libera.
Kelsey Riggy, yes.
Yeah, Kelsey Riggy from Libera. Tell us a little bit about your work with them. They're a nonprofit organization.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So that was kind of a random email one day. They have a social enterprise where they are creating these boxes for young children, so between the ages of 9 and 12, where they're able to explore STEM fields. And they are choosing prominent women throughout the state of West Virginia to kind of make a box around, essentially. So their first one was Katherine Johnson from from NASA.
Yeah.
And they decided that their second box was going to be about me, which is kind of crazy to think about.
That's so cool.
But the box is all about exploring agriculture and exploring farming. So they have the ability to grow microgreens or grow sunflowers. There's a whole thing about, creating a Lego cow or exploring farmers markets in your area.
So these are like a subscription box that's mailed to a young person.
Yes.
And they can actually do the activities and learn about agriculture, learn a little bit about your story as well.
Absolutely. But
how cool is that?
It's just another way to kind of get that agricultural message out there. And Kelsey and Libera did an incredible job with that. So we've done a couple different events together, done some promotional events for the box. So more recently, we went and did a candling demonstration with eggs at a local elementary school.
Oh, cool.
And we brought a chicken in for the kids to see, but they all went home with one of those boxes. And then further back this past summer, we also did an event at the WVU Animal Science Farm, and it was Agriculture Her-ist Day. So it was kind of more involved with female agriculturists and getting people some hands-on experience with WVU educators and extension, and just showing young kids, okay, here's what you can do if you want to work in the ag industry.
I love it. One more question.
Yes.
When I have somebody like you who's a great leader out in the community here in the studio, I want to ask, what's the most important leadership trait you think is needed right now in not only in agriculture but in business?
I think the biggest thing is a sense of understanding. A lot of people like to listen just to hear, or, people are kind of talking at them and they're just, okay, here, let me just respond quickly and get through with whatever you're trying to tell me. But we've kind of forgotten the idea that we can take a minute, take a breath, listen to what somebody's saying and understand it as opposed to just trying to respond. So if you take that minute to understand those around you, then they're going to want to listen to you and kind of follow you a little bit more if you're taking their ideas into account and just being somebody that's willing to listen and understand what's going on.
That's profound. Very, very wise words from Elizabeth Lynch, Miss West Virginia 2022, talking about agriculture and farming here in West Virginia. Elizabeth, we've covered a lot in this interview. Is there anything else you think folks should know about your story?
I think the biggest thing that I try to leave with people all the time, I say this with every group that I talk to, you didn't come this far to only come this far. And I think that's been something that's been a constant message for me, is that, sometimes things can get really difficult in your life and, you've worked so hard and it might not turn out how you wanted it to, but don't give up just then, because you have to think about all the great things that you've accomplished up to that point. You didn't come that far just to give up now. And I think that's just kind of a life motto for me. And I try to give that to everyone that I talk to.
Yeah, I love it. Elizabeth, you're doing great things. You're going to go far. Elizabeth Lynch, Miss West Virginia 2022, a champion of agriculture in West Virginia. Elizabeth, it's been an honor to have you on our show today. I think you are doing amazing work out there. Congratulations on your reign as Miss West Virginia in 2022, and also just the work that you're doing. In agriculture, working on your PhD. I know you're going to do great things and ensure our food supply is in good hands.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you letting me share my story.
We'd like to thank our partners, Highmark West Virginia, Freedom Kia of Morgantown, Interaction Media, Storymaker, and our studio sponsor, Breezeline, for helping to share these positive stories. If you'd like to become a sponsor of the Positively West Virginia podcast, visit positivelywv.com/sponsor.
Folks, that's a wrap on another episode of Positively West Virginia. If you or someone you know would be a great guest on the show, drop us a line at positivelywv.com. And of course, we appreciate your comments, your suggestions for guests, as well as encouragement along the way. On behalf of our entire Positively West Virginia team, including our producer today, Mr. Justin Schofield, behind the controls, I'm your host, Jim Matuga. Stay positive, West Virginia.